unfortunately, I know, there's a fan base out there that would love to see me, parade around and have an apology tour to them. But to me, it's all about, the relationship I have with Taylor and how, I feel about that.
I have a special guest with me today. He goes by the name of Monte Taylor from Big Brother 24. Got second place. How's it going, Monte?
It's going well, man. I'm out in LA. I'm enjoying this weather on the West Coast. Man, I might even be convinced to move out here, but I'm having a good time thus far.
I've been seeing the pics and the videos, and it seems like you guys are having an awesome time out there. I want to talk all about your time in the house. You were there all the way into the end, and I want to ask you, when you first got into the house, what was it like for you to get in there? Did you have a game plan, and did your game plan change towards the end of it?
hmm Yeah, for me, I'd always said three things or four things that I needed to make sure I would do in order to survive and make it to the end. One of those was winning HOH and veto competitions when I absolutely needed to. And to be honest with you, Benny, I had no competition where I threw it. Like I actually lost those competitions. A lot of people have been asking me about that. The second thing was to join a powerful alliance, people that I can trust, people that I could really lean on for my game. Third was avoiding showmances and bromances. You saw how well I did at that. Fourth, I would say sending friendly goodbye messages to the jury. That's one thing that I've seen a lot of the winners do in the past. So when I walked in, man, that was my game plan, was just, hanging on those four things, but just actions over words. Like I really wanted to see who I could trust based off of the way they were acting, the body language that I was receiving from them, and also sort of the time that we spent talking about games. So that was my approach when I walked in the door.
Well, I love how you mentioned that because you mentioned all of these, awesome game moves. And so I guess the next question I want to ask you is, where do you think you went wrong in your game for not getting, that first place W?
Yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know if there was any like very obvious blunder because I made it that far and I controlled my own destiny up until that point. I felt good about the moves that I made to get to that point. I think it was probably more of an awareness of what Taylor had gone throughout the entire seasons that I wish I would have taken more time to investigate, right? Because I did not understand how much that resonated with the jury. I did not understand, how much that would resonate with America as well too, mostly because I didn't see what was being done and what was being said about Taylor a lot of that first week. From my perspective, I had just been operating on the fact that I thought someone was lying to me, right? Just a person. So I felt a certain way about that. But even before that whole incident, apparently Taylor had been isolated, ostracized a lot for I don't really know why, right? So for me, I think coming into that awareness, that's something that I wish I would have learned a little bit more about, but I couldn't see how I would have figured that out in that moment either. Because a lot of the people who were a part of that got evicted pretty early on in the game, and we didn't have those talks.
Right. And you mentioned so many things I want to touch on. First, I want to talk about the jury. You were surprised. I remember seeing interviews in the past where you said you were surprised by a lot of the jury votes. One of those jury votes was Terrence. Why do you think Terrence, because you guys did have, a pretty close relationship, why do you think Terrence voted the way he did? And I think I specifically remember him saying that he would vote for you when he was in the house.
Yeah, very, very specifically. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think for him, he may have had a change of heart after talking to people in jury and hearing more about the perspective on Taylor that I was not aware about in the house. Um, and also, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just playing game on me and he was saying one thing but felt another. Terrence was one of those dudes where, like, I think he was playing a very fluid game when it came to what he would say to everybody. So I'm not sure, man. I can't get a good read on that one, but um, I think there was some sense or something in jury that maybe made him feel that he had it wrong with Taylor.
And so I want to talk about next. It's what a lot of people are talking about, and a lot of people want to know your answer to this.
Mhm.
It was after you and Taylor had a little thing where she had said something about your goddaughter, and then she snatched the headphones away. You confronted her about it, and then you said, you know, if cameras weren't around, I would have been a lot harsher with you, which caught a lot of people off guard, especially women. And they said that comment made them feel uncomfortable. So I want to ask you, what did you mean when you said that to Taylor?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, to be honest with you, Benny. Like in that moment, there was a lot of emotion. I felt hurt. I felt sort of annoyed. Um, and I think in that moment, like I just felt like I wanted to, unfortunately, in a very immature nature, I wanted to make her feel the hurt that I was feeling, right? Like in that moment, which is not right and definitely not something that I'm proud of. But I don't know what the hell I was talking about as far as being harsher. I think if I didn't care about something, the worst that I would do is not address it at all and ignore them. So for me, in having that conversation with her, of course, we're still playing a game. So having a very personal conversation and it not being jaded by game is almost impossible. But I still wanted to at least express how I was feeling and try to help somebody that I cared about with what I thought my read was on the situation. So that's how I felt. The whole comment around being harsher, I think that was something that was just said out of, you know, anger and frustration. But I I don't even know how I would act upon that because that's not in my nature. So
Okay. And then also during that same conversation, you kind of alluded to the fact that, you know, when Taylor was getting bullied by Paloma and some of the other house guests, she kind of deserved it a little bit. You didn't specifically say those words,
mhm.
but were you surprised with how much love Taylor received when the game ended and how much love she's still receiving when the game ended? Because it seemed like you and other people included
Mhm.
felt that Taylor was making herself look bad on Big
Mhm.
Brother.
Yeah, I think I definitely was not entirely surprised. Like I knew that she had an ability to connect with people that not a lot of people in that house had, right? Like I knew that that was a thing. I just didn't know to the extent of how much she was bullied that first week and how much that would make people connect with her even more, right? Like that to me, that perspective was all the way out of my head. And especially during a week where I was almost 100% convinced, not even during that week, but also the following weeks, because nobody had this conversation, or Taylor and I never had the conversation about what really happened up until the week of Big Brochella, right? So that was 6, 7 weeks where I was still under the assumption that I don't know what was happening during that first week. And I hadn't really become privy of every detail that came into that. Now I've becoming even more privy to more of those details. And it's like, oh wow, now I see the picture here that is happening. So I think in that moment when I made that comment, it was just an ignorant comment. You know, it was just something that I wasn't aware of what had gone down with Taylor throughout the entire season. And I was just trying to make some sort of hypothesis on why people would have isolated her or would have ostracized her if I felt hurt by this comment. I thought maybe it could have been happening before or whatever have you. That's how I felt in that moment. But now I'm realizing that it was very unfounded to make that statement. And you know, this is something that I've talked to her about. We haven't gotten to that conversation, but I've talked to her and apologized for a lot of the things that happened early on in the season that she has told me that she has seen, you know. So we still have a lot more time to go through everything that happened throughout the season, but it's something that started already.
Well, I love how you mentioned that also, how you said you started talking to Taylor about the things that have happened because she had an interview where she said that, you know, Indy, Jasmine, a couple of the other girls have come up to her and they have started the process of, you know, owning up to what they've said about her behind her back to her face.
Mhm.
And so, where have those conversations with you and Taylor led? Like, have you guys started that process? Have you,
Mhm.
you know, talked about the things that you've said to her? Have you apologized to the things that you've said to her?
Yeah. So, you know, for me, Benny, I haven't really taking it upon, like, I don't have a Twitter, so I think that's where a lot of like these clips and videos are sort of displayed. So I hadn't necessarily seen them myself, so I've only been operating on what people have told me and are showing me. um I'll also say that Taylor, deservingly so, has been a very busy woman this week and has had a lot of PR, and so have I, as well as being a part of the final three, final two. Um, so even us just trying to figure out what normal is throughout these past week and a half, like, has been damn near impossible for us to sit down and just chat. But when we did recently, we had a conversation, and still a short one because, we had to get to the next thing, right? Like, there was a press thing that was happening in a half an hour, and, it was a rushed conversation. But yeah, we started to have that conversation, and I pretty much told her, I was like, look, I don't know what you've seen. I don't know, what your perspective is on things, but I just want to ask you what you have seen, because I haven't directly seen anything myself, but I've only been hearing things about what I've said and what I've done. And we started just hashing out some of the things that she's seen me say, and the things that I did earlier on that made her feel hurt. And to me, that's all I care about. Like, unfortunately, I know, there's a fan base out there that would love to see me, parade around and have an apology tour to them. But to me, it's all about, the relationship I have with Taylor, and how, I feel about that. So those conversations have started. It's just, I think, something that people are just not privy to because they're not in the rooms with us. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. And so I remember watching on the live feeds, you were saying that, when the show is over, you wanna talk to X last season about, you want to ask him how you did. Were you able to ask him that? And what was his response if you were able to ask him that?
No, I haven't gotten a chance to connect with him. I would love to, honestly, because he set the bar for me. Might have even made it even more difficult, just by how well he did last season, and trying to, people kept making comparisons to X while I was in the house. And I was like, oh man, like, I don't need people thinking that, I'm that big of a threat. You know what I mean? So I definitely love to talk to him, but just haven't had the chance yet. And I'm sure that we will.
Okay. And I saw that you guys are all, or I don't know if you guys are still all living under the same roof at Todrick's place. Mm-hmm. What was that like? Was it still talking about the Big Brother game? Was it like, oh my gosh, I'm done with Big Brother right now, I just want to have fun? What were conversations like in that house with all of you under one roof?
Yeah, it's only natural that we talk about what happened, because a lot of us are coming into the light of what people have seen, different perspectives, what people were actually thinking. Because again, while you're in the house, you can only say so much, right? Because you have to protect yourself. You can't show all of your cards to everybody. So now that we have all of our cards out on the table, it was so much game talk. It almost felt like we were still in the damn house. And I was like, all right, let's balance that out with some fun. But it's also been pretty busy. Like I said, Taylor has been, booked up top to bottom each day. Myself as well have had some opportunities to connect with, podcasts and different folks in PR. So yeah, man, it's been a balance, but there was definitely a lot of game talk and a lot of people trying to figure out what was what, throughout the season.
And so I love how you mentioned this, you're getting opportunities. So my last question is, what's next for you? Are you going to continue the reality show route? I know a lot of people from Big Brother, the next thing they do is the challenge, or they do another reality show. What's next for you?
Yeah, I'm open to another show. A lot of people are very encouraging about me doing the challenge. It's a shorter, a shorter filming season, right? Like, it's not 3 months. So I think that that's something that's definitely doable. And I just like how the challenge operates, with the type of comps that they have and all that. But for me right now, man, I just want to get back to my online fitness coaching business, working with new clients, catching back up with the clients that I already had, helping them hit their fitness goals. And then eventually I do want to get into the podcast realm. I quit my job this year, started my online fitness coaching, winded up on a reality TV show. And that all came as a result of making a decision to pursue my passion. So for me, I want to encourage more people to do that, either helping them in those conversations or, giving more examples of people who have done it, and then showing people that it's very possible. So that's probably what's next for me.
What would your podcast be called, and what would it be about?
Oh man, dude, this is where I lack the creativity. This is where I need Turner. I need somebody who's very like artsy and has that part of their brain working. That does not work for me for some reason. So I haven't thought of a name, man. But I think the one that Taylor had come up with in the house was Monty's mantras. So that could be something. Who knows? But we'll see.
All right. Well, Monty, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.